Hello and welcome to the review for Quiz 13 and Test 7. This is the last regular quiz that you will take this year, and then this is the last regular test, both calculator and non-calculator. From the review sheet, you can see Quiz 13 is calculator permitted, which seems like a great thing, but by this point in the year, you should know if the calculator is permitted, you will need to use it, you'll need to know how to use it, and the numbers might be a little bit more complicated for that reason. So a lot of these things, like read through this well. So find the area between two curves, figure out how to do that. Find the volume of a solid by revolving a region about the x-axis. If it's about another, or if there's a region, a volume that's generated when a region is rotated about a given horizontal line, that'd be like the line y equals 5 or the y equals 2 or something outside of the solid, but when it's rotated, creates a new shape. Find the volume of solids using cross-section. Know all the shapes from the daily lesson, page 207. That would be like the ones like, well, it's from 206, 205 and 206 is when we figured out what they were. But 207 also includes those rectangles and that are like 3 whose height is twice the length of the base. Like all of those ones, still make sure that you know them, like an equilateral triangle versus a semicircle versus a square. Those formulas, you need to know them, and I'm going to continue to quiz you on them, so learn them now. It will save you later because I'm going to keep drilling you over and over and over about them. So it says find the volume of using cross-sections, so know cross-sections well. You can't do the rest of the problem if you don't know those basic formulas. The next thing, identify the differential equation represented by a given slope field. So this is going way back, slope fields, what we did a few weeks ago. So differential equation, it'd be like what's dy dx is equal to what if your slope field is given. That's the one that you can go through and draw all the individual lines. And then this last one says, given g of x, and a graph like it on page 179. So it's really just saying if you have a graph of f of t, well, or f of x even, and you've got some graph, how do you figure out g of 3, g prime of 3, and g double prime? Remember that g prime of x, the derivative of an integral, is the stuff on the inside with whatever the upper limit of integration is substituted. So this would be f of x times 1, so you get in a habit. The derivative of x is just 1. If this was 2x, I would have to put f of 2x times 2. If it was x squared, I'd have to say f of x squared times 2x. So lots of options on this one, but it's g prime of x. And then I can see now they match up with one another. So if I'm finding g prime of 3, where is it, g prime of 3, this one, what I would do is I would go over the graph and just look at f of 3. If I was finding g of 3, then I substitute -1 to 3, f of t dt. And because these match, what I can do is from -1 to 3, I would have to send my graph, -1 to 3, find the area on the curve. Clearly it'll be shapes that you know, but make sure that you know how to find the area of a circle or a semicircle or a quarter circle, a trapezoid, a triangle, a rectangle, like all of those shapes that we did before. This will look more like that. G double prime, you have to take the derivative here, which would be f prime of x. So what this is saying is the slope of f. So if this is the graph of f, again, these will be straight lines, but you find the slope at that point. So this is all for quiz 13. Extra information I would give you about this, specifically as I'm looking at the quiz. When you are finding the area of a region, many of these shapes, like as I'm looking through 1 through first several, none of these are giving you a picture to look at. And sometimes when you have a picture, it's easier. But you have a graphing calculator. So if you have a graphing calculator, make sure that your window is set appropriately, and then graph it, so that you can see if you're finding the area, what is the top function, what is the bottom function. Practice this. If you're finding the volume of a solid and it's rotated, revolved around an axis, you need to figure out which one is the outer function, which one's the inner function, what's the axis of rotation. So when you're doing this, draw these pictures, like put it on your graph, on your graphing calculator, but then draw them. Another one, make sure that you know the formula for all of the cross sections. Really important. I'm looking through your quiz, which is why it's taking me a little bit longer. Again, make sure that you know all of the different cross sections formulas and how to use them. Practice putting them in your calculator. Don't get overwhelmed when you're looking at a problem. There's one that says something about, I don't really want to give stuff away, but just think about what the question is asking you and how to put this into your calculator. Again, if you haven't practiced and just been setting it up, make sure that you go through your homework and try some of them. The homework, it's all of Unit 7, so anything is fair game for this quiz. It's going to be focused mainly on the stuff from the end of the unit. It wasn't on the last quiz, but I would make sure that you completely understand the stuff from Quiz 12. Again, identifying a differential equation, still there, and one like this. Okay, so you did a whole lot of problems whenever you were trying to figure out the area of a region, the volume of a region, and again, cross sections. Make sure that you're looking at a bunch of different types of problems. So like if you're talking about, I don't even know, doing this, there we go, some region. If I was finding this region, you'd have to make sure this would be, let's say, the area. This would be my top, this would be my bottom. But if I was finding this region, you have to be careful because the top and the bottom actually switch. Well, the bottom is the same the whole way through. It would be this axis right here, y = 0 at the x-axis. But I can see my top curve would be this from here to here, so I'd have an integral of whatever this top minus bottom, or in this case, top minus 0, plus a second integral from here to here. And your top changes, so a different top minus 0. Do problems like this, where you're trying to figure out different ways to find the area of different regions, that sometimes you set up one integral, sometimes you add two integrals together, sometimes you take an integral minus an integral. Practice these things. I accidentally wrote on a lot of this with a marker, and now we can't see this very well, but luckily you have this already. So this just has the Test 7 calculator and non-calculator on the back, the review. Read through this. Like, it gives you what the free response is. Like, it says similar things on here. Like, it gives you a lot of these. Specifically on the no calculator, it says UDU substitution. I gave you two problems which you were to look at before. One of them was on the quiz, the other one's going to be on the test. Make sure that you can do the problems using the fundamental theorem of calculus. These ones would be ones like on that circuit that I gave you, because you're going to be doing that a lot. Like, get into the habit. If you're doing it by hand, how do you do f of b minus f of a? How do you find the antiderivative? So a lot of these are just doing stuff that you know over and over and over again. So if you kind of slacked on Unit 7 homework, here's the time to go through it now and end the third marking period strong. This will be your last grade on the third marking period. So make sure that you're going through this list. These are really good things, so I'm not actually giving you a lot of extra information here. Just make sure that you read through and you can do each one of these. It gives specific problems for you to look at. Make sure you look at them. So good luck. Do awesome. I have morning duty for a little bit, but feel free to come. You can come outside and ask me questions. Come in during lunch, ask me questions. I want you to do well on this, and I want to finish the year strong. So you can do this. I believe in you. Study lots.